Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm JJ Flazanes, your producer and empowerment strategist. Thank you for downloading today's episode. Bruce Lipton is back, and we are talking spontaneous evolution. This is the title of his second book, and while it was written about 10 years ago, it is more important than ever that we understand these concepts and that we apply them now, because as you'll hear during this episode, and this may sound dramatic, even though it's not, we are on our way to our sixth mass extinction, and we have an opportunity to create spontaneous evolution, and we are doing it every day. But we have to take personal responsibility for what we contribute to that, as well as what we contribute to the collective. So today's show is really chock full of information and the reasons why and how to sort of work on yourself to contribute to that collective healing. And we have to do it, and we have to spread this word as far and as wide and be an example and be a manifester, if you will, of leading the charge. Otherwise, we're in deep shit. So I know that might sound dramatic, but as you listen to today's show, you will probably have a difference of opinion after you're done. So I appreciate that Dr. Bruce came back and left plenty of time for me. This is probably the longest episode I have, but well worth it. And I would keep talking to him. So he will be back for his third interview. But in the meantime, I wanted to also remind you of two deadlines quickly approaching. So part of what we talk about today in terms of spontaneous evolution is sort of taking your power back and the responsibility you have to contribute to spontaneous evolution of this planet, right? The collective. And we can't do it from an idea of everybody out there. We can only contribute by looking inside and creating a change within us and then helping to create a change in others. So I have two things to help you do that are the deadlines are quickly approaching. First, we've got the Roadmap to Emotional Healing course, where you're going to go inside and take personal responsibility for your core wounds, the reasons why you act the way you act, the choices that you make, what you're trying to get, what needs you're trying to get met, all the misunderstandings that have been running your life and your subconscious. If you'd like to take a deeper dive into changing who you are, and by changing, I mean bettering, healing, freeing, elevating, expanding, then I'd invite you to jump on this live course, because it will only be live once, and you'll have access to not only a support group that I'm putting together on Facebook so you can help each other from week to week or get questions answered, but you'll also get a live Q&A with me, and it'll be a 90-minute class, and I'll even run over if need be if people have more questions, because having you feel different and a change and clarity is one of the goals. And that's jjflazanes.com/roadmap. The doors will close on April 5th. jjflazanes.com/roadmap. And the class starts on April 6th. The second thing is, if you want to contribute to this spontaneous evolution in a bigger way, and maybe you're already a coach or you want to be a coach, I have 2 spaces left for the Empowerment Strategist Certification 2022. And I will say that you have to go through the work as if you're going through it first before you can teach it to others. I'm not just teaching techniques and having a distance. I don't know if any of you have gone to a coach or a therapist who you don't necessarily trust, like lives their life the same way they are kind of coaching or training. And that disconnect is a big no-no for me. I need to know who people are in the world and to be a living example. Again, I think this is what contributes to spontaneous evolution, is being a living example of what you preach. Talk your talk, walk your walk. Don't do as I say, not as I do. So 2 slots left as of today. That could change any minute, but please fill out an application. There's no cost to do that. Get on a call and we'll see if it's a fit. It will not be a fit for everybody, and it is a commitment. jjflazanes.com/cert to fill out an application. I feel like this man needs no introduction, but Dr. Bruce Lipton, PhD, is a cell biologist and lecturer. He's an internationally recognized leader in bridging science and spirit. Bruce was on the faculty of the University of Wisconsin School of Medicine and later performed groundbreaking stem cell research at Stanford University. He is the best-selling author of The Biology of Belief, The Honeymoon Effect, and co-author with Steve Behrman of Spontaneous Evolution. Bruce received the 2009 prestigious Goi Peace Award from Japan in honor of his scientific contribution to world harmony. For more information, of course, visit brucelipton.com. Hold on to your hats. I hope you enjoy this. There is a video if you want to watch us, because he's just a character and I love him dearly. So enjoy today's episode. Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm going to try to contain my excitement. What happens when I get excited is I talk extra fast. And what I love about today is I have Bruce Lipton back. I'm so excited. And he talks as fast as I do. So hang on to your hats if you are finding this on YouTube because you were looking for Dr. Bruce Lipton. I just wanted to let you know this is my show. What does that mean? That means I'm going to talk. It means I'm going to have a conversation. So if you don't like me, totally cool. Bruce, where can they find more of just you if they don't like me?
BruceLipton.com. That's easy.
Very easy. Okay, cool. If you are listening to this on the podcast, we have done another video. Dr. Bruce Lipton has been here before with Biology of Belief. Took a long time. Talked about that book for 10 years before I ever met you, before I ever read it. But I talked about it and told everyone about it. So today we're going to be talking about spontaneous evolution. And I have the book. I have the audiobook. And so the subtitle is Our Positive Future and a Way to Get There from Here. Boy, do we need that right now. So thank you, Dr. Bruce, for being back on the show. I've missed you. It's been too long, but I know how popular you are. So I do appreciate any time that you can make it here.
I am so honored to be here with you because I know your important work is to wake up this world, and you have a wonderful audience out there of people who say, come on, feed me some stuff here. And as long as they don't cancel us, because it's hard to say the truth these days if it challenges the official version. And I'm not an official version.
Neither am I. So what I found, so I went back and forth. I was reading and then I was listening. And again, what I love about you, besides many things, is that you talk as fast as I do. And so listening was really fun. And then Steve was a great addition to have in there to kind of pass the story back and forth. However, if anybody gets both of them, don't try to follow the book. I did. Don't try to follow the book as they're talking, because they don't read, they just talk. So it was really, I'm like, wait a minute, where am I? I'm looking at the pages thinking, this is not, what did he say? That's not in here. And I was like, forget it. We're just going to go with the audio and be done. But what I found really inspiring and I don't know, funny, not funny, ironic, is that when you started this book, because this is not a new book, when you started this book, I was like, oh my God, what was going on during the time that you wrote this book? Because it applies to exactly what's going on right now, which leads me to believe that we have a crisis every however many years that we're dealing with, because I'm like, I knew you weren't talking about the here and now in this book because you wrote it many years ago.
At least 10 years ago. And we're in process. And I'm so happy and and sad at the same time, because the truth is what's happening right now is part of an unfolding. And it's sort of like when a caterpillar goes into a butterfly, metamorphosis, it starts out as a caterpillar, which is a voracious organism. It eats all the damn leaves off the plant. And then it goes into a pupa, chrysalis, a cocoon. And I say, what happens in that cocoon? I say, well, the functions of the caterpillar are not going on. They're not moving, they're not eating, they're not digesting. So the cells in the body of the caterpillar break apart because there's no job. They're out of work. And cells are like miniature people. So all of a sudden, this voracious organism that was just powering through, all of a sudden, no jobs. The work is stopped. And I go, what happens? Well, that's when a community starts to fall apart. But in that cocoon, what people don't see is there are a group of other cells called, I love the word, imaginal cells, and they have a vision of a future. And so that population that is coming down, falling apart, is being guided by imaginal cells to build a better future. And the idea is, if you looked inside the cocoon, it would look like chaos. I mean, cells are all falling apart, but some cells are building up. The point is this: don't hold on to the caterpillar. The caterpillar did its thing, voracious, destroyed the environment it was in, and then evolved into a higher level of organization with the lightest touch of butterfly. We are in this process, and the relevance about it is this: yeah, look around, it's falling apart. And I go, thank God. Why? Because the way we've been living on this planet, we have actually been creating our own extinction. And people say, oh, extinction, like a million years from now. I go, no, how about a couple of decades from now? This is what even NASA scientists have said, that civilization, industrial civilization, the one we're in, within 2 decades is facing, and I use the word and emphasize that they used, an irreversible collapse. It's not going back. No matter how many people say, let's take it back. It's like, no, it was the problem. and that we have to break it down to build a healthier, sustainable civilization. So I say, so what does that look like? I say, well, it's like being in a cocoon. There are cells all over the place going, oh my God, things falling apart. And there are cells that are saying, look, let's move this way because here's a better way to survive into the future. And the bottom line message for me at this point to the people is simply this: don't hold on to the caterpillar. It's falling apart. To survive and thrive, you have to let go and build a more sustainable civilization. And this is what Mother Nature is calling on us to do right now. That's why the chaos. Mother Nature is saying, you can't keep doing this. You have to move to a different place. And that's why I'm so honored to be here with you, because your audience right now is part of that. Let's move to a different place. But you need some information to go from the falling down one to the building up one. And so thank you for this opportunity to talk about this.
Anytime. You're welcome back anytime, as many times as you want. Because again, we talked about epigenetics and quantum physics in our last conversation with Biology of Belief in terms of what's going on right now. And people that I even had somebody who watched it and said, yeah, I don't buy it. And I'm like, okay. I mean, someone who's not part of my community, but I thought, okay, well, I'm not going to try to convince you. It's totally cool. Because again, when we look at quantum physics and frequency, okay, well, we're not on the same frequency and that's okay. So maybe you're part of the cells that are dying. And I know for sure that the people who listen to my show, the podcast anyway, are the ones who are the imaginal cells. I really love that. I think I'm going to have to create a group. Chris Northrup has her Warriors of the Radical Light. I'm like, maybe Dr. Bruce Lipton should have his imaginal cells group of people who want to continue to push the 5D Earth into existence for all of us and create that collective consciousness, which I know doesn't need to be everybody, but the more people we have, and I do see it, it's just slow. The thing that I sit with is that the truth will be made known. It's inevitable how long it's going to take and the damage that might have to ensue between now and then. What do you feel about that?
Well, we're in process. And listen, here's a very simple fact. We're in a state of collapse for a couple of different reasons. One of them, number one, is economy. It's made on a false pretense of paper money that can change value from day to day. It's like, okay, how much is a dollar worth today? And I go, tomorrow may not be worth that at all. And I go, well, energy is what keeps us alive. Money is energy. If you have money, you can stay alive. But if your money disappears, then you're lost in this situation. Well, the money is like a pyramid scheme, paper money, and that's why it has the value changes from day to day based on whatever people believe it's in. Biology doesn't have paper money. Biology has real money in your system. There's energy, and it's stored, in a form of a molecule called ATP. In biology, they say the coin of the realm, meaning that is the unit of energy. Okay. A very simple fact. Let's say a biological process 1 billion years ago, a biological process, let's say respiration, took 50 ATP molecules to do it. And I say, well, that was 1 billion years ago. How much does it cost to do it today? And the answer is 50 ATP molecules. Why? It's a value that is pure and real, not made up. And their money is made up value. What do you want today? Go look at the market. Tell me how much gold is today, or the prices go up and down. I go, well, where's the value in something that can change value overnight? And the fact is this. I'm sorry I talked so long about it, JJ, but here's the point. No. It is in a collapse. We are facing an economic collapse. And I say, so what do you think the leadership is going to do? Go, oh, we're just going to have a big collapse. I go, no, they want to hold on tight. Because the idea is if it falls apart, they've lost the control. And today we're experiencing more than ever before the attempt to control a population and tell them from one source. That's the other problem. It's like the whole world is responding to who? CDC, FDA. I go, you mean the whole world, all around the world is listening to this one voice? I go, that's called world government. And they're holding the world like this to keep it from going. Inevitably, it has to go, because the second part of the story is not only is the money valueless at some point, is that we are in what officially is called the sixth mass extinction of life. Now, the first thing you have to understand is if we're in six, then there must have been five. And five times in the history of life, this is a fact of science, life was thriving on this planet. And then some cataclysmic event wiped out up to 90% of life. The last time, 66 million years ago, the place was flush with forests and green and everything and dinosaurs. And a comet hit near Mexico. It's such a big comet that it upended the web of life. All the dinosaurs disappeared. 75% of life disappeared. That's called the mass extinction. Today, we're in the same process, but it's not a comet. It's human behavior that is not living in harmony with nature. And the idea is there's some belief that we can dominate and control nature. That is the whole mission statement of science. That's why they say, how can we control all this? And the answer is you cannot control this. Nature is in the charge. Nature, she's in charge. We are just elements in the garden. And the idea of our foolishness that we can tell Mother Nature how to run her world, well, it's falling apart. And there's climate change going on. There's all other kinds of issues. We're destroying ourselves. We destroy ourselves with the food that we're growing because people have a misunderstanding about nutrition and nourishment and all that. We're spoiling the planet. We're putting pollutants all over. I mean, the ocean is polluted. Here's a fact. In 2048, not very far from now, science has recognized there will be no fish in the ocean. 2048 is not very far. And I say, what does that mean? Planet Earth, no fish in the ocean. Why? We've overfished. We are destroying the breeding grounds and we're polluting the hell out of the water. And I go, and how are we going to do when the fish are gone? And the answer is, that's like the canary in the mine. When the fish go, there's more than just fish missing here. We're in a lot of trouble. So it's a wake-up call. And this is why your show is so important, JJ. Let's wake up because the nightmare is unfolding in front of us right now. And it's very difficult because there's a manipulation of the message. The message is being pushed down because of the control at the top. They don't want to lose control. How do you do that? Well, here very quickly is that civilization, the evolution is the evolution of community. We're not individuals living in a reckless world. We're a species called human beings. And the idea of evolution is not separation, but coming together in harmony as a unity. And if you can see, everything that's going on right now is to break up community. Isolate yourself, distance yourself, keep away from each other. I go, that is the opposite of evolution. The only way we're going to survive is when all the people come together and create a unity on this planet. There's no human that is disconnected from any other human or any other thing on this planet. We're all in this. And the idea about it is it's a wake-up call. And the leadership, seeing that this is in a collapse, it's going down, and the last ditch effort are holding us together so they don't lose control. And the idea about it, boy, I sure hope the hell they lose control because the collective human experience is much more powerful and life-saving than the individuals who are making decisions for us. It's a collective experience and they're breaking the collective. And that's their last ditch effort to stop the evolution. And the fact is, it can stop. We could end, as NASA said, 2 decades, irreversible collapse of civilization. We are in it. All you have to do is look out your window and see that this thing is collapsing. Now, the question is this: are we going to just continue to collapse and go downhill and then say, hey, human experiment was pretty good, but it didn't work? Or are we going to change? Are we going to take our power back? Each one of us is a creator. And your whole work, JJ, is to open up the power of our own creative ability. Because if we keep thinking we're victims, then that means by definition, we are powerless. Tell them you're a victim and they go, oh, I have no power. I'm a victim. And I go, the world is filled with about 7.5 billion victims who think that they have no power. And I go, my God, every one of us is a creator, but nobody is given the information that you are powerful. Everything's, oh, you're a victim. Your genes are, you're a victim of your heredity. You're a victim of this and that. And I go, no, we are creators. But if you create victim, then you become victim. And this is the effort, disempower the public. And recently, as you found out, when you're trying to advance and educate the public, they don't want that. They'll cancel you. The cancel culture is happening right here. And I'm so glad you're here, JJ, because we need every open opportunity to help the individuals out there, because who wants to be the victim?
No, it's not a powerful position to be in. You know, I work with, since you and I've met, lots have happened. I started a certification to help to train other coaches to do what I do and to teach the tools that I teach. And one of the core foundations of what I teach, I'm an empowerment strategist, is that you only have two choices. When you're in the victim position, there's nothing you can do from that. You're powerless. And it might feel good at first to feel like a victim, because then you don't have any responsibility. But ultimately, if you want to feel better, you have to make a choice to take responsibility for possibly everything you can in order to have choice in each situation. Even though it might sound ridiculous to some people, and they may think, well, I'm not responsible for this. Just try me. Take responsibility for everything, because from that place of power, you get to make choice and you will feel better. But back to, because it's not, I want you to keep talking. Trust me, this is not about, I don't need to hear myself talk about things. I want you to educate us. I want you to help us. But you've talked on so many things, and I'm like, wait, I have a question about that. Okay. So I want to go back to, you said 6. We're in the 6th world extinction.
Right now, we're in it for, by science's understanding, 15 years. They've been telling the public, you are undermining the web of life, and you are the web of life. And when the web of life collapses, so does human civilization. And we are in a real collapse. We're losing species of organisms faster, 1,000 times faster than background today. And it's not because they're weak, it's because we have undermined the viability of an ecology. As if we can do whatever you want. And I say, no, you can't do whatever you want. You're a biological entity in a web of life. We're connected. And yet there's this belief that we can dominate and control nature. That's a mission statement of science from the 1600s. It was actually a guy, Francis Bacon, who made this mission statement. The aim of science is to dominate and control nature. And nobody wants to say this, but I love it, because when you go back and you find out Francis Bacon, the science philosopher who came up with this, was one of the greatest misogynists ever. He was so against women. He was involved with the witch trials, women are witches and stuff like that. And nature was a woman. And that's when he said, we must control her, we must tie her down, we must do all these things. It's like, oh my God, listen to the words that this guy is saying. And he was using feminine issues in the population to bring in nature as feminine and say, and just like we must control the women, we must control nature. And I go, oh my God. It's like, that's a little big-headed thinking that you think you're going to control nature. Well, nature is giving us the messages right now that says you better shape up, because we don't need you in the garden. And a lot of people don't understand that a garden, the garden from whence we came, a garden by definition is the height of cooperation. Every organism in the garden is supporting the garden. Except when something comes in and upsets the garden, nature will eliminate that organism, because it's creating disharmony. And a garden is not a battleground. A garden is a height of cooperation. And I say, and what have we done? We have thrown a monkey wrench into the garden. And as it's going down, well, we have to go down with it, because we're not separate from, you can't be here without nature. We are nature. And when nature falls, so do we. And so we're looking at our own ending right now.
Comet. Go back to the comet that wiped out the dinosaurs. What number was that?
What number what?
What number extinction?
5. 66 million years ago.
Okay.
And there were 4 others before that.
Which one was, if there was, there was an Abraham quote at one point about fossil fuels and who was burning the fossil fuels when the ice age happened, meaning nobody was, because that wasn't around. So the earth took its balance at that point. But what number extinction was the ice age?
Well, the ice age actually, when humans were here, there wasn't a full extinction. There was called the Younger Dryas period. I go, what does that mean? I said, well, something was here that upset human civilization as much as nature, okay? But humans more so. I go, what does it mean? I said, well, it didn't wipe out all of nature, but it sure as hell threw a monkey wrench in human civilization. You go, what do you mean? I go, well, the conventional Bible story, whatever, is like, civilization was like 5,000 BC, the Tigris and Euphrates River, Babylonia, Phoenicians. That's when civilization started. I go, no, there were civilizations 10,000 years ago that were big civilizations that disappeared. And we're just beginning to find them. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey was a civilization, big one, 10,000 years ago, disappeared. And it's like, well, what happened? Well, that's when you were talking about the ice age happened, that climate change caused a breakdown of this, but there was more. There was other things going on. In the Göbekli Tepe story, what's interesting is archaeologists dug up what looked like a giant mound-like thing, and they started to find what? There was a city in there underneath it. And it was like, whoa, was that erosion for all the years? They say, no, it was manually buried by the people. There was a city where people then took all the rocks and dirt, covered up the whole damn city. It's like, what the hell happened? Well, we don't know. And the idea is in our conventional world, oh no, civilization was just 5,000 years ago. I say, no, there were massive civilizations 10,000 years ago that disappeared. And the idea is a wake-up call that says, we must learn to adapt. One of the big issues is this place in Turkey supported a population. If you go there today, it's like desert. I go, well, what happened? I go, climate change. They didn't adapt to the climate change. That's one thing. And they got lost. And we have to do this right now. And people say, climate change. Oh, that's the one where the snow and ice is going to melt and the water is going to come up and go over the cities at the edge of the. I go, yeah, that's one problem. You want to hear the real problem? They're not telling you. I go, what is it? How can you plan agriculture when you can't plan the weather? When the weather changes, you can't grow food. Why? It's a drought. It's too hot. It's too cold. These are the fluctuations that are going right now. And I go, and what does that mean? It said, you cannot plan agriculture if the weather is erratic. And it is erratic. And I say, what about it? I go, hey, go to the grocery store, folks. Look at the prices on these things. I go, why? Because the production is going down and the prices are going up. And I go, what does that mean? I said, you're not going to survive if you can't have food. And so thank God there are some forward-thinking people, because the newest thing is happening now are big buildings, like tall vertical buildings with growing food. And guess what? They're about 3 times more efficient in growing food in the building than outside the building. So all of a sudden it says, yeah, there's a future coming. We have solar energy. Now we're going to have indoor growing, but we have to move on this. And anything that stalls this, when you get, let's go back to the way it was. And I go, the way it was the damn problem. Why would I want to go back? Make America great again? Well, America was great when the Europeans didn't get here. America was great when the natives were here, because guess what? That was a civilization that understood it was a garden and that they were here to maintain the garden. Somewhere along the line, the indigenous systems lost, and now we're here to dominate and control the garden, and it's not working very well.
And I hope a lot of people recognize that. Again, people that are, if you're finding this on YouTube and you're new to me, and I doubt you're new to Dr. Bruce, that's why you found this, that this wouldn't be new to you. And I hope that you would share this with people who are open to this. I wouldn't shove it down people's throats that are clearly not open to this and live in victim mentality. So there were a couple things. So was it the beginning of climate change? Because again, you talked about like the state of the world, or this is at the beginning of this book when you wrote it, and all of the things that we were talking about, which apply now. But I was literally like, oh my God, this is happening now, but it was happening then. What was it then? What was the biggest issue when you started writing this book?
The biggest issue was the untalked about issue. And that was science had already recognized 15 years ago that we are creating our own extinction because we're changing the web of life. Monocropping, cutting down all the forests and planting the same plant. That no place on the planet is monocropping except where humans put it. It's not part of nature. The idea of burn the rainforest down to make more hamburgers for people. I go, holy cheese. And here's the joke. There's an inside joke. You ready? We should live to be at least 150 years of age as an average human. I go, then how come we don't make it? The biggest issue, and people don't even get it, is we eat too much food. I go, what do you mean? We should be on subsistence diets. What does that mean? I go, minimum amount of food. And I go, why? Because when you digest food, it's burning food. Okay. And I go, well, when you burn fuel, what do you get? I say you get waste products. Don't breathe the exhaust coming out of the exhaust pipe of your car. Why? It's toxic, waste product. I go, there's a waste product when we eat food and digest it. It's called free radicals. I go, what are those? These are charged particles that are like bullets. Free radicals break a cell, shoot into the cell, break the cell. And so we're killing ourselves with the byproduct of eating too much food. That people like breatharians, I go, well, what are they? They say, well, some of them they say they don't eat, but some of them eat saltines. I go, well, they're sure as hell not supersizing their saltine meal right there. They eat minimum. And guess what? They're as healthy or healthier than anybody else. And so there's a new insight coming, and it's not even in the world yet, but it's out there. And that is, as plants have chloroplasts, which take sunlight and turn it into food energy, humans have pigment, melanin in the skin. I go, what about that? It is now recognized that melanin takes energy out of the environment and converts it into biological fuel. I go, what does that mean? It said, nature was intelligent. It didn't evolve an organism that needed so much food that it ate up the planet. As we evolved, we needed less food. And now they found out for a fact, you cut a diet down to subsistence level and you can essentially double the lifespan of any animal. All laboratory animals that, I grew rats in my laboratory research. I didn't give them breakfast. Oh, here's your breakfast today. And now here's coming lunch. You could have some lunch. No, you throw all the rat pellets in the cage thing and they eat as much as they want. They found out that actually, if you just put a little bit of pellets, then the rats will double their lifespan. And it turned out to be rats and cats and monkeys. And now it's also recognized in humans. So I said, well, we're eating the environment, destroying it to feed a belief that we need to eat that much food to stay alive, when eating that much food is shortening the lifespan. It's like, we got to wake up, folks. We got to come back and start to recognize we are so out of harmony with nature that we are causing our own extinction, not nature. Nature is saying, you are bad in the garden. You guys are the virus in the garden. And nature will eliminate any of the pathogens in the garden. And she has given us the wake-up call saying, we don't need no stinking humans.
What's so fun about the alignment of this conversation, again, another thing that's happened since I saw you last is that I have hooked up with Dr. Nasha Winters, who wrote The Metabolic Approach to Cancer. And Dr. Nasha's whole platform is about terrain-based treatment. Right. And so this terrain we're talking about, and then of course, one of the reasons why she even survived her cancer, was a stage 4 ovarian cancer at 19, was fasting. And so that's a huge part of, in the cancer world, fasting, and just in health in general. There's a ton of doctors talking about fasting and its benefits, and bringing us back to being able to use ketones. So this is a new level of that we're taking from our skin, being able to take from the environment, which I love, because that adds to another reason and another more scientific evidence to show us why fasting is necessary for our health. So again, it's all kind of coming together, what I did, which I didn't really plan, but this has been the evolution in the last 2 years for me too. And so when I was reading this book, I have a lot of questions. One of the things that you We have to get to the matrix at some point. Okay. And we kind of already talked about it, but I want to break it down a little bit more. My partner, Doug, had never seen any of them. And I sat him down and we watched all 4 of them in a row so that he could really understand. And then of course you're mentioning it in the book. I'm like, oh my God, they're talking about it in the book. And then of course, right now he understands some of the quotes that people have. But one of, going back to epigenetics and quantum physics, but let's just talk epigenetics for a second, because part of the victim mentality, I think, that people don't recognize as being correct. And what I mean by that is when I first heard Abraham for the first time say, you're the creator of your own reality, it changed my life, instantaneously changed my life. I didn't need to prove it. I didn't need to research it. I didn't need to hear more. I just knew, oh my God. And then I just, from there, because I had a deep knowing. Now, people need to be often proven that things exist. And when it comes to our health, because I'm dealing with a lot of cancer patients, as well as people with diseases who are finally ready to deal with their emotions because they now have heard enough or are ready to acknowledge that their emotions help to create their disease or they slow down their healing. And that's what I'm kind of specializing in right now. What I love, and I just honed in on this, I want you to explain the story about the schizophrenic who had dog allergies.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was actually a multiple personality or a dissociated
Okay.
dissociation. And basically it says this. Let me just back up and very quickly say, well, how did I get here from being a conventional biomedical research scientist? I was cloning stem cells. Stem cells are embryonic cells. You have them if you're watching this show. Why? Because you're made out of 50 trillion cells, and every day, hundreds of billions of cells die every day. That's natural. Okay, you replace the entire lining of the digestive tract, billions of cells every 3 days. Skin cells are sloughing off, hair cells. Some of mine didn't come back, but they're always being replaced. And I go, so why is it relevant? I say, the stem cells are the equivalent of embryonic cells. So you are filled with them because if you're still here, that means even though you've been losing hundreds of billions of cells every day, you're replacing them. And so what I'm doing is I'm working with a stem cell. It's an embryonic cell, multipotential. I put one cell in a petri dish by itself and it divides every 10 hours. So first there's 1, then there's 2, then there's 4, then 8, 16, doubling, 30,000 cells a week later in the petri dish. And I go, what's unique? They all came from one parent. So I say, why is that unique? Because then I said, they're all genetically identical, 30,000 genetically identical stem cells. I put them into 3 dishes, split them, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. So all the dishes have genetically identical cells. And I feed them culture medium. In the laboratory, you grow cells in a fluid called culture medium. I go, so what's culture medium? Laboratory version of blood. So I say, oh, I grow human cells. I say, what's human blood made out of? And then I make culture medium for human cells. But since I'm doing it in a lab, I can change some of the constituents a bit. So I make 3 slightly different versions of culture medium, blood, chemistry. I go, so what? Well, in one dish with, version A, the cells form muscle. And the second dish with version B, growth medium, they form bone. And a third dish with another version C of culture medium, they form fat cells. And I go, well, what controls the fate of the cells? I go, they were all genetically identical. The only thing that was different was the culture medium chemistry. And all of a sudden it says, oh my God, then the genes didn't determine what the cells were going to be. It was the culture medium that determined what the cells are going to be. So I go, yep. And that all of a sudden led to a science called epigenetics, environment controlling the genetics from the culture medium. And then I say, what's culture medium? Blood. And then I last piece put it together. We look in the mirror, see ourselves, single entity, Bruce, JJ. Okay. I go, but we're made out of 50 trillion cells. The cells are the living entity. Bruce is the name of a community of 50 trillion cells. I go, oh, a human is a skin covered petri dish with 50 trillion cells inside with the original culture medium called blood. And I say, oh, does it make a difference if the cell's in a plastic dish or a skin dish? I say, no, in either case, it's controlled by the culture medium, the blood. So I say the cells in your body are not being controlled by the genes, they're being controlled by the blood. Then 2 steps and we're big time. And I go, what's 2 steps? I say, well, who's the chemist? Who puts the chemistry of blood together? The culture medium. I go, the brain is the chemist. And then comes the final big one. What chemistry should the brain be putting into the blood? And here is the answer. Whatever vision you hold in your head, the brain translates that into complementary chemistry. You have a vision of love, you release beautiful chemistry. When people are in love, they glow, they're healthy, they're vibrant. I go, that's not an accident. That's the chemistry of the culture medium. But when people are in fear or in stress, the system collapses. And I go, so what's the relevance? I say, the genes had no control over this. It all started with the consciousness. What did you believe? How do you live? Why? That's going to control your blood. And that blood controls your genetics. And the genes didn't control you. You control the genes. So cancer, 90% of cancer doesn't even have any genetic linkage, meaning 90% of cancer cases, there's no cancer in that family lineage. Boom, cancer. Point, where'd the cancer come from? A belief system that was not in harmony with life. And you translated that disharmony into disharmony chemistry, which then manifests. And you go, so what? And I go, that's the whole damn secret. Your vitality is not controlled by your genes. It's controlled by what perceptions and beliefs you have in your head. And I go, and we've been programmed to be what? You're a victim. Your genes control you. I'm sorry, you're going to get cancer. You're going to have this disease. And I go, the genes cause that? I go, the belief in the gene caused that. The gene is a blueprint to make the body parts. I go, so why is it relevant? It's a blueprint. Genes, DNA, blueprint to make proteins, which are the building blocks. And I go, so the significance of that. I go into an architect's office and she's working on a blueprint. And you ask her, hey, excuse me, is your blueprint on or off? And she would look at you like, what are you crazy? It's a blueprint. There's no on and off. Yes, that's where the truth comes from. A gene is a blueprint. It doesn't have on and off, but it has an architect. An architect reads the blueprints and adjusts the blueprints. And the architect is the consciousness. And our consciousness can activate the genes. Well, is it going to activate healthy genes or disease? I go, what are you thinking? Because you're going to translate that thought into complementary chemistry. And so negative thinking causes a breakdown of the system, can cause any disease. You can die from a negative thought. And I go, oh my God, that's the opposite of what everybody is always talking about, placebo. Placebo is positive thinking healed me. And the conclusion here is simple. Negative thinking is equally powerful, but works in the opposite direction. While a placebo positive thought can heal you of any disease, a negative thought can cause any disease and even death. And that's not related to genetics. It's related to consciousness.
I was talking about that on the show that didn't make it here. I was talking about the nocebo effect of our environment and how the numbers, well, there's also the died of versus died with. And there's also the miscalculation of all that anyway, but that people make themselves sick. People can make themselves sick. You see it every day. It's the worry. It's the fear. It's the, all of the emotions that created from their brain that changes their chemistry. And I mean, I see it happen all the time. And people don't put that together because they feel like they're victims to an outside circumstance or an outside influence that then will affect them. They don't understand the power they have to not even play in that realm, to literally live. Like I've said from the beginning, I live in a different world than you do. The world I live in is a frequency that you are not in and that I am living in. Therefore, my reality is very different.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
People don't get that because of all of the information that's been going on. So what I love about, because I'm really anti-victim mentality in all forms, meaning if someone says, oh, I'm allergic to this, or this has happened. And I go, okay, well, let's go back to what's an allergy. An allergy is a body's reaction thinking it's in danger. And so it becomes inflammatory and it wants to protect itself. So what is that? Why did that happen? Like in my past relationship, we had a lot of friends who were allergic to cats, and I have cats. And I got really tired of hearing them and the attitude that it was the cat's fault. It's not the cat's fault. So I had to, so I don't know if you know, messages from the body, the psychological, root of most diseases. Anyway, he has another book called, It has to do with allergies and aversion. So I looked it up, and a cat allergy had to do with like mother wounds. And I was like, okay, great. That's all I needed to know, because I need to know all you people who have, and no disrespect for those that have cat allergies. It's not about judging. It's about uncovering, where did this start and why does the body feel its needs to react? And it's not a show I've done because I can't get anyone to do a show on this with me about allergies. But that's why I want you to tell the story, because so in the spontaneous evolution, you tell this story about a man with dog allergies.
Yeah.
And can we tell it now?
Yeah. Well, so basically I said, so what? It's the thought process that creates the chemistry that controls the genes. But then we find out in multiple personality, that's what it used to be called, where a person changes their psychology, like a switch went off and now they have a different psychology. And I go, but the moment they change their psychology, then the chemistry of the new psychology is now in charge of the chemistry of the body. And I go, so the person with the dog allergy, when all of a sudden they switched into another personality, no more dog allergy. And it's like, well, what happened? Did all the antibodies against dog disappear? I go, no, the consciousness changed. And the significance is when they went back to their original personality, within a minute, boom, they're back to the allergic response again. Same thing happened with one of the first cases of multiple Eve, the story of Eve with different lives. She was allergic and had a severe hypersensitivity response to strawberries in one personality. When she switched to another personality, she could eat all the strawberries she wanted. But if she come right back into her original personality, she'd immediately have a hypersensitive response to the strawberries. And all of a sudden says, oh my God, the immune system is based on the action of the consciousness. When the consciousness changed, so did the immune system. So a cat and dog allergy is interesting in this regard. The number of people who were never allergic to an animal, then all of a sudden they get allergic to like dogs. And then they find out what happened. Well, they were in a relationship with this other person who had dogs. The relationship went upside down. They lost the whole thing. And when the guy left, he then had a dog allergy, didn't have it before. I go, what was the dog allergy? It was psychologically connected to the loss of the relationship they were in. And so the dog was like a transference. So, okay, I lost a relationship. It's a dog. And they got allergic to dogs. And all of a sudden it says the immune system is controlled by the consciousness. It's the whole leading edge of immunology. It's called, big word, psychoneuroimmunology. This is the front edge of the leading edge of immunology. I said, that's a very big word. Well, it's actually 3 words. And in biology, the sequence of the words are very important. The base word is immunology. Yep, that's the immune system. The next word was called neuroimmunology. The brain sends chemical signals to control the function of the immune system. But then the first word is called psychoneuroimmunology. And it says what? The psychology supersedes the other 2. That the psychology can then cause the nervous system to alter the immune system. So it's what's in charge, not the immune system, not the nervous system. It's the psychology that's in charge. Consciousness is creating our life experience. Now, Bruce is going, oh, consciousness is creating our life experience. I go, look, my work showed that in the nature of what is called epigenetics, where the consciousness is used to translate chemistry, which then controls genetics. Epigenetics means, epi means above. So epigenetic control means control above the genes. And we now know that that's consciousness right there, okay? And the relevance about that is, it's like, oh, then our consciousness is adjusting our biology and our life and our behavior. And I go, yeah, that's a fact of epigenetics. And then I go back even further, because quantum physics, and I call it the most valid science for a simple reason, is that the theoretical insights on day 1 of quantum physics in 1927, 100% almost, have been verified to be true. And I go, so what? And I go, you ready? Principle number 1, quantum physics. Consciousness is creating your life experience. And I go, what does that mean? I go, according to quantum physics, you change your consciousness, you change your life experience. Well, in biology, that's where my work came in. It showed change your consciousness, you change your genetics, epigenetics. So it's coming to a simple fact. We are creating this life experience. And then in my lecture, I joke, I say, so how's that working for you? If you're the creator, which it says in quantum physics, primary science, primary principle, I say, well, if we are the creator, then are you creating what you want? Are you creating heaven on earth? And I go, for most people, no. We're all caught up in this, oh my God, the world's falling apart. I'm a victim of all this. And it's like, no, you're a creator. That was from the basic of science. And I go, so significance is this. We must accept the fact that as creators, we can create the good, but we can also create the bad. And that if it's bad, then what we need to change is not the world. What we need to change is our own consciousness, because there's our own consciousness that has disempowered us at this point. And how did that happen? I go, well, that's epigenetics. Take the image of your mind, convert it into complementary chemistry, and the chemistry then makes your body match the image in your mind. So that's how it works out. And so the idea is, well, we've been programmed. I go, where the hell did that come in? I go, in the first 7 years of our life, we have to learn how to become a member of a family and a community. We have to be participants. I go, how many rules must an infant learn to become a functional member of a family, a functional member of a community? I go, how a father talks to his own kid is not how he talks to the neighbor's kid. It's not how he talks to the neighbor's mother. It's not how he talks to his own wife. It's not how he talks to the policeman. I go, oh my God, how many roles do I need to play here? I go, when do you learn them? I said, before you're 7. I said, how can you learn them? And the answer is because the first 7 years of your life, your brain is not in thinking consciousness. It is in hypnosis. We've been programmed. And I say, oh my God. Then the program that we download in the first 7 years, it turns out to be 95% of our life. And I go, so why is that relevant? I go, because almost all of us were criticized as children in an effort by parents to make us do better. That's not good enough. Who do you think you are? You don't deserve this. Well, they were trying to needle us to do better, but they don't recognize a child under 7 is not thinking, it's just recording. So I say, what does the average child record? Not good enough, not lovable enough, not deserving, not this, not that. They just heard that because that's what the parents were like. A coach, if a player on a team's not doing well, the coach doesn't go, oh, please do better. No, coach goes, that's not good enough. You don't deserve to be on this team. Well, the thinking kid over 7 will go, oh, I'm not working hard enough. I should do better. A kid under 7, not thinking, just says, oh, I do not deserve. I am not good enough. I am this, because they're not thinking. They're just taking the words. So most of us have really bad programming. And I say that's why we struggle through life, because we've never got the kind of programming that could be given to us by a parent in the awareness of, you're programming this child. So what should you be saying? You are the smartest. You are the most powerful. You are the most lovable. You giving them a program of positive, but we don't. Okay. So we've been programmed. So that's where the movie The Matrix comes in. Yes, all of us have been programmed. There was no way you could get here without programming. It's like buying a computer. In the old days, you buy a computer, you could boot it up, but you can't do anything until you do what? First, put the program in. And I go, this is the same thing. The brain boots up in the last trimester of pregnancy, but it's not usable until programs. I go, 7 years of not being in conscious level, but being below conscious and theta. It's just hypnosis. How did I learn all the rules? The answer is all you did was observe. You watch your mother, your father, your siblings, your community, downloaded like a video camera. That's how life works. And then 95% of your life comes from those programs. So we've been programmed. Matrix. And then all of a sudden, so just to get out of this in 1 second is, but the beautiful part about the Matrix is, oh my God, you can take the red pill. You can get out of the program. And so I'm going to tell people right now, yes, you've been programmed. That's a fact. Every human has to have been programmed in that first 7 years. Okay. The Jesuits were proud to know that. They would tell their followers, give me a child until it is 7 and I will show you the man. Because they knew whatever program you got in the first 7 years, 95% of your life is that program. That's true. So, okay, the red pill. Okay, almost everybody out there, you ready? Most of you have taken the red pill and it profoundly changed your life. I go, when did I take the red pill? When you fall in love. When you fall in love, you stop thinking and you stay mindful, you stay present. And it's the thinking that actually, when the conscious mind is thinking, it's not paying attention. It's thinking, it's inside. So when you're thinking, the subconscious programs that you got in the first 7 years, they take over your life. And all of a sudden, so when you were thinking, you're not living your life, now you're living the life of the program. And 95% of the day for the average person is how much thinking is going on. But the moment you fall in love, you stop thinking and you stay present, because you've been looking for this person your whole life. They just showed up. Who wants to think? You want to be there now. So you stop thinking, you stay mindful, meaning you stop thinking, you're present. And I go, what happens? 24 hours later, you're heaven on earth in a honeymoon. I don't care how blah, 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 blah it was. You fall in love 24 hours later. It's like, oh, life is so beautiful and everything's so wonderful. It's called a honeymoon. I go, how did you get the honeymoon? Because you're a creator. And this is the first time you stopped the programming from creating and you took over the control. When you fall in love, you stop playing programs and you become manifesting of your destiny at that moment. And I go from what? From blah, 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 24 hours later, life is beautiful, man. Life is wonderful. I'm in love. I go, that was the red pill. And unfortunately, thinking will come back in. And when thinking comes back in, all the bad programs that you didn't play in the relationship start showing up. They throw a monkey wrench in the relationship, honeymoon's over, and in most cases, the relationship is over because those negative programs you put in the first 7 years stop playing when you're in love. But the moment you start thinking, boom, they're back again. And in the relationship, it starts out in the honeymoon because you're not playing your negative programs. You're playing creator. I am in love. I am creating heaven on earth. I say, you did, and you created it. But there's a point where thinking comes back in because you have a job, responsibilities, all this stuff. And the moment you are thinking, you then revert back to subconscious programs. Up to 60% are disempowering and negative. And all of a sudden you start playing these negative programs that your partner never saw, because when you fell in love, you stopped playing program. And now they start showing up, and some of those programs are toxic.
Well, I agree. I think most of them are. And so that's a really wonderful setup for our next conversation we're having about your third book, The Honeymoon Effect. Because we're going to talk about that too, because you said you come back for all the books.
I will.
Okay. But so I want to take this into, and I had already claimed it when you came on the show the first time, but what keeps evolving is sort of like, this has been my life's work. And that is because even when I was a personal trainer, would talk incessantly about emotion. And again, I don't know who put it in my head or how I learned emotion creates disease, but the minute I heard that, it's like, yeah, again, that's why I always referenced your book, Biology Belief. I'm like, nope, that's all I need to know. Don't need to read the book. Yep. Your belief creates your biology and affects your biology. End of story. That's as simple as we need to get. Don't need to go any further. Again, no disrespect. It wasn't like I said I knew how to explain it. I just understood it and accepted it. So when we come to, like emotions, I could talk. Dr. William Davis had me come into his membership group to talk about this kind of stuff. And he said, oh yeah, it's sort of like an hour. Sometimes it can go, a little lower, like an hour and a half. He's like, and he had to pull me out because I just kept going. I'm like, I could just talk about this for all day long, every day, because I'm so passionate about it. Because I think most people suck at processing emotions or even acknowledging their emotions. Everyone's so afraid of their emotions. I mean, I think what's going on right now is literally a whole bunch of repressed emotions coming out to all these subconscious programs that people are not, they're just so in fight and flight. They're so in this fear nocebo effect that they're not even conscious. They're not in their conscious brain. They're in a reactive, in Jill Bolte Taylor's work, Whole Brain Living, you're in your character too. You're in your survival mode. You're trying to defend yourself, and you're not utilizing the other parts of the brain that help to create you being in the moment, being present, disconnecting from the programs of the other parts of the brain. So when we look at spontaneous evolution and people are like, okay, well, what do I do? What can I do right now? What can I, without crossing into the honeymoon effect yet? What can we, because I want everyone to get spontaneous evolution, although I do really want you to get on audio, but get the book too. What can we do, all of us, to help this planet?
Well, the first thing is stop buying into the story of you have no power, that you're a victim, that the world's falling apart. Just pay attention and live there. Is like, and we were programmed the basic thing is when a parent said to a child, who do you think you are? And guess what? Most children go, nobody. Okay. And I go, that was the moment that you acquiesce to the fact that I have no power. I am nobody. And that we are programmed. Don't say your real feelings to people, be nice, lie to them and all that. And I go, nobody's being true to anything really right here. And the idea is you are a powerful creator until you buy the belief that you are a victim. And that's what they're selling you. Oh, the genes control your life. Totally false. Genes do not control anything. You control your genes. And if you knew that, then people would make a positive step to doing a better job. But no, they don't know that. They've been programmed that I am an expression of my genes and I have no control. I'm going to get cancer because it's in my family. I'm going to get heart disease because it's in my family. I go, that's all from creation. You are a creator. And people can't buy that because their entire subconscious programming, first 7 years, is disempowering programs. There are many of these disempowering programs. If you have feelings, don't have feelings. Listen to what a person has to say. Don't let your feelings get in the way. And I go, biggest stupid mistake we ever made, because feelings are energy, and energy is either supporting you, good vibes, or energy is compromising you, bad vibes. Okay. But the vibes are feelings. And when we don't express our feelings, then we're not being true. And when we're programmed not to express our feelings, then that is a program that says you have no power. Don't express it, just live it. And I go, oh my God, we have been systematically disempowered to fit in. And as I said, the Jesuits have known that for 400 years. 400 years, they told everybody the truth. It's the first 7 years of programming that determines the rest of your life. Well, if you had this knowledge, then you can change the damn first 7 years of programming and put in better programs. But you, don't even know you've been programmed. That's the matrix. You don't even know you've been programmed. And the only way you know you've been programmed, if you think about it, is when you stop playing the program, your life radically changed within 24 hours of just stopping the damn program. I'm in love. Screw the program. I'm not going to think, because it's the thinking that takes the power away from the conscious mind. The conscious mind is like looking out the window, and your biology is like a vehicle driving through the world, and you're watching what's going on consciously. But the moment you are thinking, the conscious is not looking out the window. Thinking is inside. So that means whatever was happening out the window, you didn't even see it. And I said, well, how do you respond to it? I said, you've been programmed to respond to it without even thinking about it. So, a story I very quickly just say is like, you're in a car and you're driving and you have a friend and you get into a conversation and you get so deep into that conversation. And then you look out the window and you realize, I haven't paid attention to the road for the last 5 minutes. I go, well, you're still driving. Doesn't look like you killed anybody. You're not in an accident. Seems everything is safe. So that's okay. And now I ask the 2 questions. Question number 1, what was your discussion about? Oh, because your conscious mind was involved. We talked about this and this and this and this. I go, great. Question number 2, what was on the road for that last 5 minutes? You go, I don't know. I didn't see it. I go, no, you didn't. Why? Because your consciousness was paying attention to the conversation. It was not looking out the window. And I said, well, then who the hell drove the car? I go, subconscious is autopilot. The moment you are not paying attention, the autopilot takes over. You learned how to drive a car. The subconscious is 1,000,000 times more powerful a computer than the conscious. So you got 1,000,000 times more power when the subconscious is driving the car. Matter of fact, if you're going into an accident, the car is skidding. If you stayed in the conscious mind, slow, here's the scenario. Car's going out of control. You're holding on the wheel and you go, oh. I go, that doesn't happen. I say, what happened? As soon as it goes out of control, you're turning the wheel, you're hitting the pedals, you're doing all kinds of actions. I go, instantaneously. I go, how'd that happen? I say, because that moment of stress shuts off the conscious mind, puts you into the subconscious mind, 1,000,000 times more powerful processor, can handle all of this stuff that the conscious mind couldn't do in that very short time. So all of a sudden I go, oh my God, what's the point? 95% of the day I'm thinking, average person. then that means 95% of the day you are playing programs that you are not conscious of. Why? It's subconscious autopilot. It's playing while you're thinking. And the same, I probably even said it the last time we were on air, the same very quick story is you have a friend, you know your friend's behavior very well, you know your friend's parent. And one day you see your friend has the exact same behavior as the parent. So you want to tell your friend, you get all excited, you go, hey, Bill, you're just like your dad. Back away from Bill. Because the first thing Bill's going to say, I know it. And the answer is this: how can you compare me to my dad? I'm nothing like my dad. And the audience laughs because they've all experienced it. I go, profound story, most profound story. I go, what is it? Everyone else can see that Bill behaves like his dad. Who's the one that can't see it? Bill. Why can't Bill see he behaves like his dad? And I say, why is he playing his dad's program he downloaded in the first 7 years? The answer is because he's not paying attention. So whatever behavior is coming out when he's not paying attention, Bill's the one that doesn't see it, but everybody else can see it. And I say, why is this profound? I say, because we are all Bill. People don't want to own it. We're all Bill. 95% of your life is playing without you even seeing it, because that's how much time you spend thinking. And yet, what would it mean? It's like, well, in my conscious mind, I believe, of course, I'd be the most wonderful, loving person and everything. And I go, yeah, but if you're working from 95% subconscious mind, and that was programmed by other people, you might find yourself not that same person anymore. You'll find yourself disempowered or an angry person or whatever, self-sabotaging person. And that's why we wake up in the morning, today I'm going to get healthy. Today I'm going to find romance. Today I'm going to get the best job. And you come home at 5 o'clock and it's like, didn't happen today. And then you say, well, why didn't it happen? Here's the problem. Just like Bill, you didn't see the behavior you played 95% of the day. You started with today's the day, but 95% of the day you were playing programs just like Bill, playing those programs you downloaded, most of them disempowering, and yet you didn't see them just like Bill for the simple reason is because when you're thinking, you're not observing your own behavior. And that's why you don't see it, but everybody else does. And if you have self-sabotaging behavior, you'll be sabotaging yourself in front of all these people, except your conscious mind wouldn't have any idea you did it because it was thinking when the subconscious program took over. And we have to recognize, are we living the life we want, or are we living the life we've been programmed? The answer is unfortunately the latter, because that's how much of the time 95%, and the Jesuits knew it for 400 years, they told you that. And I go, yep. And I say, well, who knows that? And I go, the leadership of this world knows that. The leadership knows programming better than even the Jesuits knew programming. When you see an infant walking around with an iPad, and you can hardly walk and they got an iPad, you're seeing programming. And we have been disempowered by programming because there are powerful people. I said, how did those people get so powerful? The joke, they didn't get more powerful than you. They took away your power and they maintained their power because you've been programmed to be powerless. They've been programmed to maintain power. A famous book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And it says what? You come from a family of rich people, you've been programmed to be a rich person. Even if you don't know how it happens, why? It's subconscious. An idiot like Trump, he's an idiot, but he's got a subconscious program how to manipulate the money because he grew up in his father's family that way. Okay. I go, so the significance is really clearly this is the programmers shape who we are. And we as a collective population have been systematically programmed to be powerless. And that makes the one that didn't get programmed that way, the rich dad guy, very powerful compared to which one? The one who comes from a poor family. Why? Because what's their belief? Not good enough, can't make it. Life's a struggle. I can't get there. We're going to work real hard, but we're going to stay poor. I go, oh, well, then that's your fate. The rich one learned all the rules, and even they could be stupid. Their subconscious 95% of the day is going to play those rules. And so, did you come from rich dad family or poor dad family? Not that many rich dad families.
No, and I think that's why you do the work you do. That's why I'm doing the work I do, because there's also that when we understand we have choice and we understand it's what we focus on and the stories that we tell ourselves, then we get to have choice. And, the consciousness of being aware of your behaviors, your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, how you react to things. I'm actually doing, this video will be out way past this, possibly, but maybe the replay will be there. But I'm doing a course tomorrow, a free workshop called The 3 Reasons Why Traditional Talk Therapy is Ineffective. And
very, very unfortunate, because you're not using your conscious mind. Your conscious mind could be super smart. And it is. Oh, I read this book. I understand all the principles. I give you a test. Yeah, you got 100. You really understood the principles of this self-help book. Did it change your life? And the answer is no. But I'm smart. I go, right. In your conscious mind, you're smart. But if you're only using it 5% of the time, that's not going to carry you through. So you can read all the damn self-help books you want. You can get all of the videos. You can go to all the lectures. You can do all these programs. I go, yeah, you're educating your conscious mind. I go, how much of that life is coming from that? And I go, about 5%. I go, well, then that doesn't help you, did it? And talk therapy deals with your consciousness, but it didn't deal with the programming you got. And therefore, it's like, you want to change, you change the program. A lot of people think, well, let's go back and talk about who did what to who, and that evil person, your mom, your dad, and they did all these things, and you replay these in your mind, and your talk therapy, and your mind's going, oh God, that is really bad. Give me some tissue. I have cry. I go, did that change anything? I said, no, you just reinforced the damn problem you had in the first place with that. I said, you don't have to go backwards to change your life. Why? I say, your life is a printout of your program. You are living 95% of your life from the program. Look at your life. I go, I don't have to go. There's an old saying, don't kill the messenger over the message. The person who created the problem in your life a long time ago was a messenger. You walked away with a program. You want to go back and beat up the messenger? I go, it's irrelevant. Why? Your problem isn't with the messenger anymore. Your problem is the program you carried away with you. And the issue is, well, then I don't have to go backwards. I go, absolutely not. Going backwards just replays the same story. I say, what's my problem? I go, you want to know what your program is? It's 95% of the day. Here's the simple answer. Look at your life right now. The things that you like that come into your life, they come in because you have programs to acknowledge them. But, and this is the one it's important, the things that you want or desire, and you find that you're working hard, you're struggling, you're putting a lot of effort. I'm sweating over. I'm making this happen. I go, why are you working so hard? And the answer, and I love it because it's so simple, is that destination that you're seeking is not supported by your program. And therefore your conscious effort to work harder is to override an existing program. So I would say, you don't have to go back to find out your programs. You're living them right now. You're having trouble in a relationship? Well, you got some damn bad programming in the beginning, and you're trying to make a relationship built on some bad programs that are operating 95% of the day. You're struggling. If it's a job, if it's health, you're struggling. Why? Your struggle is not because nature is making you struggle. Your struggle is because your own program is preventing you from getting there. And this is why I'm very supportive of your efforts. Like, yeah, I can go all talk therapy I want. And you can find out about all the people who did you wrong. And then you're going to use all the tissue. And I go, who cares? They're not here. Your program is here. They're not here. Deal with the program. Don't deal with the messenger. That's a waste of your time completely. And replaying the program is just, digging that groove in that old-fashioned record a bit deeper each time you play that program. And it's time to say, no, I don't need to go backwards. I have a problem with relationship. Well, then damn well, you have to change the program that you have. And this is why your coaching, JJ, is so important. Because people don't know how to really change that program.
No, they don't. No, I had a client in a couple, last week for the first time, and she's been in therapy 6 months. And after one session, I deconstructed anxiety and depression into needs that weren't being met, and then behavioral changes moving forward. And already she's like, oh my God, I wasted a lot of time in therapy. She stopped going because she didn't feel like it was effective, and she's listened to my show for 3 years. So I hear this over and over again, which is why I'm doing this. And again, and I love, again, you're the scientific validator of the things that I'm doing, because in all of your books, you're talking about, you're breaking it down into the science of why this is true, why emotion is energy, why energy creates a reality, why emotion creates a reality, why emotion affects disease. Emotion can heal you, emotion can make you sick, because it's the perception that changes the gene expression and the way the body reacts and the chemicals
because the
produced.
perception was turned into chemistry.
Right.
And the chemistry then goes to the cells, just like in the plastic dish, genetically identical cells, different chemistry, different fate. So it had nothing to do with the genes. They were all the same, but it sure has everything to do with the chemistry that the cells were living in, which is called blood. And you are the chemist of that blood. And so that's why your work becomes important. Is let's change the damn chemistry.
Well,
without going through all the history of all this. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant.
Well, my work becomes stronger because of your work. And my work comes from your work and from others who I've studied with to understand and be able to explain this to people. What I want people to get this book, and then the next conversation, we're talking about the honeymoon effect. So what have I not covered that is in spontaneous? I mean, again, this is look at this book. It's a thick book. So we were not going to cover
it's an easy to read book.
Right. But it's chock full of. So what did I not cover that people need to know they're going to get from this?
Is that civilization has been programmed. Look, Biology of Belief was my first book, and it talked about how your belief shapes the genetics and the behavior. And when I was writing, and I thought, well, what about collective belief? I said, oh my God, collective belief controls the collective behavior. And I go, oh, Jesus, have we been all programmed? And I go, yes, collective beliefs. And it's the collective beliefs. If we look back at them right now, and that book emphasizes, most of them are beliefs that have taken away your power. And since belief is controlling your life, if you believe you have no power, then you have no power, because your belief is going to manifest that reality. And so biology belief talked about how belief affects us as individuals. Spontaneous evolution is like, oh my God, look how beliefs over the time have created these different versions of civilization. Each civilization is based on beliefs specific to that civilization. And when those beliefs change, civilization changes as well. And we are in a change, because up until now, the belief of our civilizations, you're a victim of your genes, you have no power, that your life is controlled, outside forces, nothing to do with you. And we're waking up to, no, those beliefs, those are wrong. And that the new beliefs are the ones that say you are the creator. If you understand how you do this, then you can use this as a tool. If you don't understand it, then life's just like, wow, it seemed like an accident to me. And I go, it's not an accident. We're manifesting it. And yet, and you brought it up very early, JJ, the hardest part, and this is important, I got to get this out because I just realized the hardest part is owning responsibility. I had cancer. Oh no, the genes gave me I had nothing to do with the cancer. And I go, no. And I go, what's the issue? Because if you go back and you look at the things that happened to your life, and they're not very good things, whether it's violence in a relationship, whether it's cancer, whatever the hell it is, and you go, oh, I can't be responsible for that. And therefore, the things like as victim, all those terms that disempower us. I'm a victim, okay? And I go, we are not. And yet I say, but how can I own that I gave myself cancer? And I say, because you had no knowledge. And when you have no knowledge, you have no power. Knowledge is power. And since you had no knowledge of what happened in the past, of how it happened, I can tell you all the miserable things, all the things I can tell you about it. And then I say, well, you were responsible. You go, yep, no, I wouldn't have done that. And I go, if you had knowledge, you wouldn't have done that. But you didn't have knowledge. And if you don't have knowledge, then you can't be blamed. You can't be a victim if you didn't have any knowledge. And the idea is what? Blame, shame, victim. These are all only valuable, ready? If you knew there was a right way and knowingly decided not to follow the right way, then I'm going to blame you. You should be ashamed of that. But if you had no knowledge, how can I blame you? You have no knowledge of this. You have been deprived of the knowledge. So when you go back and look at your life and go, oh my God, I caused that cancer. Well, yeah, but you didn't have any knowledge that you did that. So how can I blame you? You weren't there. You had no understanding. But here's the beautiful part. But now starting today, you do. Starting today, it said, oh, it wasn't an accident? No, it was a program. And now starting today, I say, I don't have to own the past. Only own the past if you already knew there was a way to do it right and you chose not to do it right in spite of that. But if you had no knowledge of it, you have no blame on you. You can't be blamed for something you didn't have any knowledge of. And therefore, then let's disregard the history. Don't go back and repeat all that damn crap again. Let's say, what is it you want that you're not getting? I go, oh, now it's time to put a new program in. If I change the program, then I've just changed my life. And I go, absolutely, absolutely.
It's that simple. And here's all the other words that to prove that. That back it up, but it really is that simple. And if you're not a believer yet, I don't know what you're doing watching me right now or listening to Bruce. And if you are a believer, please pass it on so we can educate people that they are the creator of their own reality. And here's how you can have a better life. So will the next book, The Honeymoon Effect,
yes,
teach us how to actively choose the red pill?
Well, absolutely, except that I want to talk about it, but I know we're on a time constraint, so I must have you put me back on your show.
You have to leave me room. I've been trying. I think we reach out to you every 4 months. You're like, hey, is he free yet? And no, not yet. No, not yet. I'm like, oh, it's been 2 years. It's been 2 years.
Well, let's do it faster, and we'll talk to Annie, who organizes my life. Let's bring it up a little sooner.
Please.
Because the answer to that is the honeymoon effect. And then basically I say, so what does that simply come down to? And the answer is this: your life is blah, blah, blah. And some event of love changed it from blah, blah, blah to heaven on earth. If you understand that switch, blah, 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 heaven on earth, then you're in control of that switch. And if you're in control of that switch, then a honeymoon is not a short time period. A honeymoon could be every day as long as you live 150 years on this planet. That you wake up in love, you fall asleep in love, you live in love, no disease, because you are the powerful creator, except if you didn't understand how to get the hell out of the damn program. But you're the coach, my dear friend. So, but
I can help. But so can you. And that's why, and maybe everybody, get 2 books, get this one, get Spontaneous Evolution, and go ahead and pre-order, get your Honeymoon Effect, read it, and tell me what questions you want us to talk about for our next show. All right. So there, don't just buy one, buy both books. And then where else would you direct them to go after this if they just wanted more of this conversation or more of your tools? Just BruceLipton.com? I mean, is there anything specific?
BruceLipton.com has everything we're talking about, freely downloadable videos, audios, written articles. It's all free to download, BruceLipton.com. That's a starting place. Actually, it could be an ending place, because if you end that, then you just want maybe the support of a coach to say, okay, now that you become aware of this, how can I help you facilitate this to go faster? And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, from Bruce to JJ.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Because that's it. You just need someone because you can't see your own behavior. You need somebody on the outside to look back at you. And this is why you have friends and you might have really crappy behavior. And your friend's not going to tell you about it. I go, why not? Because then you'll get angry at them for saying that you were not being the best you were. And then you get all upset. So guess what? They won't tell you. And in a relationship, in a real serious relationship, if this is understood, that both people in that relationship came in with programs that they can't see, what it usually leads to is an argument. Because let's say I'm in a relationship with my beautiful partner, Margaret, we're having a great time in the love part. Then she comes in, I'm thinking about like work I got to do. And she asks me a simple question. I go, blah, blah, blah. And she looks at me. I love the line. Who are you? Where did that come from? And now go back to Bill. I didn't see what I just said. It was automatic behavior. Now you are accusing me, Margaret, of being a bad person. And in my conscious mind, it's like, I'm not a bad person. And now we have an argument. And I say, that was the old days. How about I know that I now play programs that I don't see. And if Margaret comes in and acknowledges that that behavior wasn't right, then I have to say, what behavior? And then she can talk to me about that. Now we have a discussion. I go, that's not an argument. That's a discussion, because I'm aware that I am playing programs that I don't see. So why should I get mad at her? It was me who played the program. But if I am aware of this, then there's no argument, because now that's an opportunity to say, well, let's change that bad program. And the point about the honeymoon effect is a guy like me who couldn't get a relationship off the ground for over 40 years because I got relationship programming from my father, who was really not the best partner in a romance at all. So I downloaded his behavior. And when I was unconsciously playing that 95% of the day, I was pushing away people. I couldn't get the relationship. And then Margaret and I both are aware of all the stuff that I'm talking about here, because she was involved in programming as well and training. And I go, so we decided, let's just talk this out. And if we talk it out, I can change the behavior. If you yell at me, I probably will just go into my shell and I'm not going to change anything. But we're having a discussion. I can learn and I can change my behavior. And I did. And I say, what? I rewrote those programs that disempowered my relationship. And I say, well, what am I? I say, I'm in a honeymoon for, I say, how many? I say 25 years of waking up every day with my partner going, God, I'm so happy to be here with you. I love you. I'm here every day. And I go, what does it mean? I say, I love my life. JJ, I love my life. I love my life. It is not the same life I had for 40 plus years, because those programs I downloaded in my family, those programs took me away from all of this. But becoming aware, A, I have programs, and B, identifying these programs, and C, which we're going to talk about, changing those programs. I have a honeymoon every day. And life is, everything else conforms to my honeymoon life. In the middle of a crazy world.
Yep. Oh.
I'm having a great life.
So am I. And I know people are going to be chomping at the bit to hear that story and to get into the honeymoon effect. So stay tuned, everybody. He'll be back hopefully before 2 years. Okay, so BruceLipton.com. And because I mentioned it, I'm sure the replay is still available if you want to click down below, and it's jjflizanes.com/therapy. You can see the replay of the 3 reasons why traditional talk therapy is ineffective. And thank you so much. It's just always a pleasure. And again, you can come back anytime. There's so much. There's so much to talk about, so much to teach, so much to spread. Again, even just this conversation, I feel like elevates people's frequencies to be able to think more clearly and receive downloads and messages and open up to possibility, which is kind of really what, you talk about conscious mind and being conscious of your programs. It's also being curious. And rather than being a victim of always questioning, when you take responsibility for yourself, you get to say, why'd that happen? That's all you need. If you just start from a curiosity perspective, why did I act that way? Why did I feel that way? Why did I think that? If you just start there, I'm the why person. If you could answer any of those questions, now you've moved off of these programs into now what can I do about it? So I hope that today inspired you to take a look at your own programs. You're going to get the book and you're going to get the next book, and links are below. You're going to check out Bruce if you haven't already, which I'm sure you have because you probably found me because you're searching him on YouTube. But those of you that are in my community, maybe we have to, I'll let you know if we have to bombard Annie, to get him on sooner. But Dr. Bruce, thank you so much for being here.
JJ, thank you. And I really want to thank our audience, because that's where evolution is going to come from. Each one of us is a participant in this evolution. We are not victims. We are manifestors. And when we come together, we can manifest a much better world to live in than the one that we have right now.
Amen. And so it is. And so it is.
Thank you so much.